for some reason, I don't know why, but you see an awful lot of people zeroing firearms on YouTube with either individual rounds or 2 or 3 rounds. With semi-automatics in particular, that's not very sensible. What I'm going to talk about in this video is a continuation of the SLR series, just to talk about the specifics of zeroing this 7.62 by 51 rifle, but the principles apply pretty much to any semi-automatic rifle. And the first thing to understand is you can't zero unless you can group. So what I'm going to do in this video is just explain the New Zealand Army procedure for getting recruits zeroed. The first thing, of course, they'll have done is their familiarisation shoot, get them used to the sound of the weapon, fire, recoil, all that kind of thing, and they start to get instructed then in the marksmanship principles. At some point when you feel that they're capable of achieving a group, you get them to shoot a group. This is just a schematic of the type of zeroing screen that we use, but you can use a whole different variety if you will. With the correct zeroing position for the 7.62 by 51, the correct point of aim, of course, is in the centre of the aiming circle, but we're looking to achieve a correct zeroing position at about 75 millimetres above the point of aim. See that we zero at 50 metres and then we start moving back. As you move back 100, 200, 300 metres, there will be a slight fall of shot, and what we're trying to get is rounds that will impact more or less the centre of the target from 200, 300 metres. So we zero slightly high, 75 millimetres above the point of aim. But before we start anything else, we confirm that the trooper or the soldier is capable of achieving a group. You go back 50 metres, you get him to fire 5 rounds, and if he is not capable of putting those 5 rounds, we do a thing called the extreme spread, which is simply the distance between the 2 furthest rounds apart from each other. If he's not capable of putting that 5 round group within an extreme spread of 150 millimetres, you don't try and zero him. You take him back, you keep coaching him until he can achieve a group. And that can take a while with some people, particularly with a full strength cartridge. Anyway, for sake of argument, we'll say that he's demonstrated that he's capable of putting the extreme spread shots within 150 millimetre extreme spread. What we have to do now is work out the permissible variation. And this is one that seems to cause people a lot of drama. My ability to zero, my grouping capability is going to be different from yours. I might be able to put all my rounds within 30 millimetres as an extreme spread, whereas yours may be larger or smaller. We need to find the permissible variation, your individual measure, in order to be able to confirm zero once we start adjusting the sights. But just stick with me, it'll come clear as we go. So he's demonstrated that he's capable of achieving a group. We then get him to fire 4 5-round groups into these 4 aiming donuts, impressing upon him that he's to maintain exactly his aim picture, his sight picture is to be exactly in the centre of the target. Even if he can see his rounds impacting in a different area, not to change his point of aim. You have to impress that on people, otherwise they'll try and aim off, and that completely ruins the whole sequence. So you've got to really impress upon them, don't care where your rounds are going, we're not trying to adjust your sights at this point. All I want you to do is shoot 4 tight groups while maintaining your sight picture at the centre of the donuts. Once we've done that, we go up and we measure the extreme spread. As I say, the extreme spread is a distance laterally between the 2 furthest rounds apart. If you've got 4 rounds that are reasonably close together and one that's right off, he's throwing the shot, disregard that, you can work with 4. The other thing we need to understand is mean point of impact. Within that 5-round group, there'll be a pattern. You simply draw a box around the outside shots, put an X through the middle, and that becomes the mean point of impact. So what we've established now, he can zero, correction, he can group. We've fired 4 5-round groups. What we do now is we measure the extreme spread of each group and add that figure up. So say 25 millimetres, 35 millimetres, whatever. Add them all together and then divide by 4, and that figure is your permissible variation. So we'll say that the average of our 4 groups works out to be 30 millimetres. That is now my permissible variation. And that becomes important at this point. Once we've got that, we've worked out his PV, we then start adjusting the sights. We go back to the 50 metre and we get him to shoot a group onto the target, the centre target. Again, maintaining the correct sight picture at the centre of the target. We go up and we draw the box around the group, we find the mean point of impact, and we measure the distance laterally and in terms of elevation. At this point we start applying correction to the rifle sights. You do one thing at a time. It's not a good idea to go try and adjust the sights across and down in the same serial. So we'll just adjust them across, shoot another 5 round group until we can see that the mean point of impact is pretty much lined up with the centre. At that point, shoot another group and start adjusting the sights down. This will take maybe 3 or 4 groups. What we're trying to achieve, and this is where the PV comes in, we want the mean point of impact of the confirming group, the mean point of impact to be within his permissible variation from the correct zeroing position. In plain English, we want the round mean point of impacts to be close to 75 millimetres above the point of aim. If the mean point of impact for his confirming group is within 30 millimetres or within his PV of the correct zeroing position, then the rifle zero. When measuring and shooting groups, we're adjusting the mean point of impact of the group to the correct zeroing position. We're not trying to get individual rounds clustered in around the correct zeroing position. It takes too long. Once you're within the permissible variation, the mean point of impact is within the permissible variation from the correct zeroing position, the rifle zero. It's a reasonably convoluted process, but it gives much better results than if you're trying to get a guy to fire a few rounds and crank on adjustment, and then, you know, it's a much more thorough confirmation that the zero has been achieved successfully. Once you've done that, you've got his MPI within, you know, his PV for the CZP. At 50 metres you go back and you fire a confirming group at 100 metres. Same deal, just confirming that the mean point of impact is where it needs to be in relation to the correct zeroing position, and we're done. Overall, probably takes, if you're fast, probably takes 30, 35, 40 minutes per fire, depending on how many serials you have to shoot. Get them to bring their rifle with them, backwards and forwards, because you can, instead of having to run back, you can do the adjustments to the sights while you're up the target end, and you'll need your combination tool. So those are the things, the way we did it in the military, and it's the way that ideally you should do with any of the semi-automatic rifles that you have. The principles apply. Talk to you soon.